Hey, this is Mark's watch from MTC Media. So I started watching golf on TV probably back in the 1980s. Like most, the PGA Tour was my introduction to the sport. As time went on and TV expanded coverage of golf, I started watching European tour events, and I dove into everything from the PGA Tour, the DP World Tour, the LPGA, college golf, Curtis Cup, Ryder Cup, President's Cup. If there was a laundry cup, I'd watch that too. That's how much I love golf. It reminded me of, everything that I liked about being challenged. And it reminded me about my fandom of college basketball too. When I was growing up, probably in my house, I was the biggest college basketball fan. My parents rooted for Georgetown being here in the DMV, but let's be honest, they were bigger NBA fans than they were college basketball fans. Hell, they got season tickets to the Washington Bullets there in the early 80s and drove from Catlin, Virginia to Landover, Maryland to watch the Bullets play. Yes, I said Catlin, Virginia, all the way to Landover, Maryland. For those from the area, you know how far that is. But what do the two have in common is that the PGA Tour has made a lot of the same mistakes that the NCAA had made, which is they waited too long to really, really read to Rome because they wanted to hold on for greed and control as much and as long as they possibly could. Now we've seen the pendulum swing on the NCAA. I mean, they're losing in court more than the Washington Journal's lost to the Harlem Globetrotters, and the PGA Tour could be heading to the same thing, simply because I do think with all the suspensions, especially if these suspensions are lifetime suspensions, that eventually some players who are on the Live Tour are going to challenge the PGA Tour's ability to suspend players in court. And if it goes to court, the PGA's whole model, similar to the NCAA's, could fall apart because now you're not making the rules. The court system is, and the NCAA has seen that has put them in a very uncomfortable situation. That's not to say that the PGA cannot win more than the NCAA. We don't know until we get to court what the courts are thinking. But there's a good chance that the PGA Tour, if it does make it to any sort of legal court ruling, legal court system, that golf could be changed forever. Now, look, I've talked about the Live Tour before. It's hard to get behind anything that's led by Greg Norman. It's even harder when you're considering where the money is coming from to get behind them. But I don't want to get this twisted. Like with the NCAA, I do believe in free market. And I wanted the tour to have a competing tour because I want avenues for players. The more avenues there are for players to play professional golf, not just necessarily on the PGA Tour, not necessarily on the DP World Tour, but to play professional golf, I think is good for the game. It keeps people in the game longer, just like with college basketball, with the NBA. I love the fact that the G League is an alternative option. I love the fact that going overseas and coming back to the NBA is a complete option. Golf and basketball are global sports. This is not like the NFL. Everyone wants everything to be the NFL. NFL and Major League Baseball is largely, overwhelmingly American entities, um, whereas basketball and golf are not. Though I don't like the optics behind the Live Tour, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not a big fan of Greg Norman, and obviously, I'm not a big fan of who is funding the Live Tour. But I would be a big fan of there being an alternative tour to the PGA Tour. Why? For the same reasons. I'm glad the NCAA is having to have their behavior change. It is not an excuse to say this is what it's always been. That's not a reason, and it's certainly not a legal reason. And I believe in pathways. And if for professional golf, there are more pathways by having yet another tour that can sufficiently pay players, I am all for it. And just like I would say to the NCAA, the PGA has every right to change their rules to accommodate it. The PGA does not have to have these lockdown rules. They are choosing to have lockdown rules, just like the NCAA did. And the NCAA made the mistake of letting it get to the court system, thinking that they were just going to win because this is the way it's always been, and they've lost. And the PGA Tour is heading down the same path. And if they start losing those same things that the NCAA is suffering, it's coming to golf. This is Marcus Washington with MTC Media.